all the things you do. I wanna give you all my love and my whole heart. Wanna drown in your love, no life, God, ocean full of love, but all I see is you. I know.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Restoring the Brokenness. I am Colette Allen. I'm so excited. I got to calm myself down. I'm so sorry for the delay. We had a little, touch and go here and there. We do have our technician working today, so bear along with us. But we are continuing our discussion with these phenomenal women from last week. So what I need for you guys to do right now is like and share our page and tell everybody we are on. You can also comment and make your comment in the comment section, and you can also call us at 262-509-0120. That is 262-509-0120. So let's just take a moment to like and share our page. Okay. All right. So today I'm not sure how long you guys have been following the show, but this is our third week. But we're going to continue our discussion on last week, being a Black woman in America. We had a lot of technical difficulties, so we're just going to continue what we left off at. Okay, so I'm going to give a disclaimer, as I always do. We, the hosts and guests of Restoring the Brokenness group, do not claim to be counselors, therapists, psychologists, or psychiatrists. The information provided are based on our own experiences and only intended to inspire you, encourage, and uplift you. We advise you to seek professional help when dealing with circumstances beyond your control. So I am bringing these ladies back this week. I'm excited. And we're just gonna start the show because we only have 60 minutes, guys. Remember to like and share our like our page. Okay, so we're gonna start off with, let's see. We're gonna start off. Can you hand me that, please? I'm sorry. You think you have something, you don't. Can you start with the first to bring the slide? I'm gonna introduce to some. First, we're going to bring back to the show. She's been on here. This is her third time on here, Pamela. And I'm just going to go through it. If this is your first time, please bear along with me. If you guys been here before, you already know Pam. She is a mother of four: Joy, Amir, Nunye, and Kene. She resides in Aurora, Illinois. Pamela has a passion for service. She has devoted much of her life to intercession, exhortation, and encouraging others to reach their full potential. Pamela is the founder and owner of the Caring Place as a therapy service organization. She's dedicated to serving individuals with communication impairments and feeding and swallow difficulties. Pamela is a veteran of the United States Army. She has a bachelor's degree in speech pathology and audiology. She has a master's in communication sciences and disorder, and she is currently finishing a doctorate degree in organizational leadership. Welcome back to the show, Pam. You see how much I had to talk and say? You did a lot. I'm tired. I'm sorry. You guys, listen. You are so patient. Thank you for being patient. We have AJ. He's our backup technician. So thank you for being patient with him. But welcome back to the show, Pamela.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're bringing back to the show Miss Brittany Morris. She was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, in a predominantly Black neighborhood on the South Side. She attended the inner city majority Black public schools until she attended PWI College in Central Illinois. Britt works as a professional biology chemistry tutor in Chicago, where she spends her spare time enjoying her husband of 8 years. Crochet. She loves to crochet, building community awareness. She loves the public libraries and summertime shy on Chicago beaches and forest preserves. Welcome back to the show, Brittany. Hey, girl. We are excited. We're gonna do this now. I trust everything's gonna work out. How you doing, Brittany?
I am enjoying my change of scenery, where it's not flipping out and everything's going crazy. That's all great. But yeah, it's another great day. I got to, work today and work with some people for biology, chemistry stuff. So, I was energized from that. So
you was ready, girl. Okay. Well, hey, you know what? We just gonna jump right in. Last week we talked. Let's see. I'm gonna have to. Okay, so we were talking about. Can we get a slide? Can we get the next slide? Okay. Next one after Brittany. All right. So one of the things that we talked about is our deepest fear. This quote, we started off with the quote. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And that's by Marianne Williamson. Okay, ladies. Who would like to start?
I'll take a stab at it. I love the quote, and I'm not disputing what she said. I agree with it 100%. I think that the reason why we feel that way, I don't think it's natural to feel that way. I think that feeling of being afraid to let your power and exude your power and all of your gifts and all of your talent, it stems back from somewhere. No one comes here with all of these wonderful things that you can do and express, but you don't want to show it. You're afraid of it. Something made you afraid to show your gifts and your talent. It could be trauma. It could be, sometimes it may be just your personality. You don't like being up front. Or in our current situation, I can speak being a African-American woman myself. And in my younger years, when I was first starting out in my career, I know that I held back a lot of my power for fear of being judged, fear of being suppressed to the point where it doesn't really matter what I do. It's never going to be acknowledged, Wow. I'll give one example in particular. I was in graduate school and we had to do our practicum hours. And the supervisor that I was assigned to, she asked me questions. And because I answered the question in a way that she didn't expect someone to be still in graduate school, still in that process of studying, she didn't expect me to answer the question, to have the knowledge that I had. And from that moment on, I believe she saw me as a threat, because the treatment I got from that day forward with that lady was just, it was almost unbearable. I won't even tell you. I was treated so poorly, and all I did was answer a question that she asked. But because I answered the question and the way I answered the question, and she saw the knowledge that I had, she didn't expect it coming from a young Black woman. She wanted to reduce me down. And then the second part of it, she was absent one day and she had her colleague come in to supervise me. And her colleague asked me, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And again, I answered the question truthfully. She asked me a question. I didn't see anything wrong with my saying, I see myself owning my own business. I see myself not working as a speech pathologist for someone else. I see myself maybe I might own a nursing home one day, and maybe I might employ people. Maybe I might be the owner of a clinic. Maybe I might be the owner of a private practice. I see myself gaining the knowledge and skills that I need to advance myself up to the next level. again, that was something that I said that was wrong, because that went in my evaluation. It was, oh, she's not serious about this profession. She's not serious about speech pathology. She wants to be in business. I just said I wanted to be in the business side of speech pathology.
But you want to do your own. You're still in the business, but you want to do your own. You would like to do your own. Wow.
Exactly. And that is, I think those are the reasons why we don't let our light shine. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The inadequacies. Yeah. But that stuff comes from somewhere. I don't think that that's just natural for you to feel that way. Something has to happen to you to feel that way. You have all these negative experiences, especially when you're younger, then you start feeling that way.
Wow. Wow. Britt, what's your take on that? What Pamela just shared?
I think she's absolutely right, of course. Definitely glad to have her viewpoint once again, especially I love that it's in an educational context, because I feel like that's a lot of where we get afraid and conditioned to be afraid of something that is supposed to be what education is designed to be. You know, it's designed to be us, elevating everyone in, either answering questions or figuring out that some questions don't have answers. Right. That's one of the things that I love about science, is that we're just trying to share ideas. And even though there are some people who are going to tell you that your argumentation isn't valid, or you didn't come to a valid conclusion, that the idea is to have the broadness of mind to be able to say, okay, I found one more thing that doesn't work, and we can get to a collective solution together as human beings. Right. That's ideally where we should be aiming as, Black women as part of society, is we're more people, that have value and have intelligence. And so that to me is the whole point of integrating schools, is to include how, we're people too, and we can think. So
but we're not supposed to let them know, though. They want you to think, but they don't want you to let them know that you know.
I'm just laying out what the ideal is and what's so problematic about experiencing exactly this pushback. So that's one thing that I think of, is that it's social conditioning. People, absolutely, where I do think it is a little innate to want to be liked or to not want to be ganged up on. And so it does invite being ganged up on if you show your light, if you're showing some talent or something that is drastically, better than what's around you, some innate talent or some skill that you may have worked really hard to develop. Sometimes if that is threatening, you feel like you're inviting attention and that you're going to get ganged up on. And that is innate, to not want the, collectivity of a social group to be against you. Clearly, like, we're conditioned as humans to have the social group protect us. So it's very threatening to have that social group against us, because we have shown ourselves in a way that invites jealousy. But realistically, if we are in a position to use that power, to use that light to advance everyone, that needs to be the priority. And so there's no logical rationale for having that fear. But of course, fears aren't rational.
Exactly. And the thing I want to say is, I totally agree with you, Britt, about it being innate. What I want to speak to those people. Like in my case, I didn't even know me. I just answered the question truthfully. I had no feelings until after I answered it, and I saw the treatment that I got after that. It just made me think about being. I shouldn't have thought about being careful about who I show my knowledge to. But after that experience, I did start to think, I better be careful what I say and how I say it and who I say it to. But I didn't come to that experience feeling that way until after I got treated very, very poorly, because I just let some knowledge show, which I thought was a very natural thing.
Well, everyone else is able to do that, but, us. So they pretty much silenced you.
I didn't understand that because, not to just ruminate on that, she picked me. She interviewed so many people.
So she knew that you were
I was
knowledgeable.
the only Black in the program.
Oh,
So
okay.
she interviewed maybe about 10 other white people. And whatever I said during the interview, she picked me.
Right.
She knew who I was. And then when I got there, I guess, I don't know. Who knows? Only God knows.
Right. Because he knew based on the interview that you're pretty that you're a smart person.
Exactly.
So I'm kind of confused.
You know what? I think it was more for me than it was for her. Because at the end of that, she said that, and right away it triggered me and it heightened me. But at the end of the practicum, when she gave me my evaluation and she wrote all of those things up in the evaluation and she asked me to sign it, and I said, I'm not signing that. And she asked why, and I said, because if I sign that, then I'm saying that I'm less than adequate. I am saying that I agree with what you're saying. I am saying that what I presented here as a speech pathologist intern, I am saying that those skills were less than adequate, and I don't feel that they were. So I'm not going to sign it. And she kept trying to force my hand to sign it. And I said, no, I'm not going to. And I think the problem here is that you have yourself up on a pedestal, your type, yourself and your type. You have yourself and your type on a pedestal, and you believe that there is no room for any other type or any other person on that pedestal. But I'm here to tell you that you are not wrong. You are wrong.
You're wrong. Obviously, yes.
You didn't create me, and you will not break me, and you will not stop me.
Right.
So therefore, I don't agree with what you said, because there is nothing less than above average in terms of what I showed here. And therefore, I'm not signing it. So whatever you need to do to move forward with it, but I'm not signing it.
Why do we have to prove ourselves? And once we prove ourselves, we still have to prove ourselves. What are your thoughts on that, Britt? I mean, I'm experiencing that now after 5 degrees, being told, oh, but you're not this. What is that? Like, I don't, what are your thoughts on that? You know, after a while, it's like, I don't know what to say about that. 5 degrees, 2 masters and a specialist degree, an undergrad, and even a 2-year degree. And I'm still not that leader. What are your thoughts on that, Britt?
My thoughts kind of borrow from what Pam said about just the room on the pedestal and the psycho. I don't want to borrow or like appropriate anything that's part of the psychological practice, but you know, psychologically they call it in group and out group. You're not in her in group.
No.
Just on face value. Right. So of course she's not welcoming you. So if you belong to the out group, just phenotypically, just based on based on the preconceived notions, then she never gets to the place where education is supposed to put you, which is where the in group is the people who have your ideology, who are in agreement that something's ideologically good. And it's a shame that especially in a place of, your field, Colette, education, or your field, Pam, just communication disorders and coming alongside people who need therapies, that you don't have room for people to be on the same side who both want to do the best for people who need education or need therapy. Wow. How doesn't that damage society? For you to turn what should have been friends into enemies, to turn what should have been your, intellectual in group into your out group, just based off of your preconceived notions.
Wow. I think what happened,
it robs everyone.
What happened in that case, and what happens often, to answer Colette's question, is that quote and it talking about inadequacies, the suppression and the process of fear started in that particular situation and many others like that, because my knowledge showed up her inadequacies. The way I presented myself during that practicum showed up her inadequacies. She did not have interpersonal skills. That's something that's innate in me. That's something that I was just born at, being a person that's a gift. I can relate to people. I have great interpersonal skills. I didn't go study in a book and learn them. God gave them to me. But she had horrible. She didn't have any interpersonal skills. She just didn't. She could not relate to people. The clients that she gave me, those were her therapy clients, and I took over those cases. And when it was time for her to come back, when it was time for me to leave and her take the clients back, they all cried. They didn't want her. When she would come into the room, sometimes those clients would have reactions from her presence because of how she acted. And I think that seeing my great interpersonal skills mixed with my knowledge, it just made her feel some type of way. And I think that that's what happens a lot. They start to feel inadequate, and because they start feeling inadequate, then we get suppressed.
Oh, I never thought of it like that. So you feel you're inadequate because you're looking at me and with my knowledge.
I'm seeing my flaws. That person is seeing their flaws. You and your gifts and your talents that you are bringing to the table is showing up that other person. It may be showing up that other person's flaws. They may be feeling inadequate in some areas. And when you come in and you're exuding this power, this knowledge and these skills, it taps into their feelings of inadequacy. And that's why you may get treated a certain way, because you make them feel powerless.
Right. And I was just talking to a friend the other day, and she said, now she's a retired African-American woman. And she said, well, when I worked, it was like I was the invisible. I call myself invisible. And that really, like, I think the first week that we talked about being a Black woman in America, we did talk about being the invisible woman. And just, I felt that, like, who am I really outside of, even when I'm around people that feel inadequate because I'm present, so I'm being held back and I'm being overlooked. There was a situation that I felt like I was that person that should have gotten the award, and they gave it to someone that wasn't even in education. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what else can I do? I think I've proven myself. So I just wanted to know. I just really wanted to kind of to see what you guys' thoughts was, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's going through that or have gone through it. Systemic racism does exist. It's not just a word that we just throw around. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but I'm experiencing it now, and it's really disappointing, because we really work hard to get where we are. We have to work extra hard. Where someone that has only taught for 1 year in leadership, and I've been doing it for 20, and I'm still fighting to get a seat at the table. And they're not looking like me, just so you know. They're not another African-American person. They're a white person. They're not, so it's like, how could someone that's only taught for 1 year had all of a sudden they're being promoted in a leadership role? I consider that, I would say that would be considered systemic racism. What are your thoughts on that? And then we're going to move and we're going to talk about myth. Not at all. You got somebody.
Brittany, go Brittany. Go for it, Brittany.
Well,
go ahead,
yeah. I think that's another intersectionality issue that we face. So there's a chance that, even by being female, we're expected to do what, foremothers have done, that, women have done, from, ye old ages, which is to be that silent power. to be the one who's behind the scenes. Oh, I'm going to make this, work for you. I'm going to be your fixer. I'm not going to ask for the name recognition. How many, fixers have there been who have been women before we get public figures or public allegories like Olivia Pope on Scandal, right? How many political,
right.
Fixers have there been? How many,
even in the
political,
church,
right?
Even in the church, though.
In any large organization,
right?
Yeah, the expectation is that the women are going to be the silent fixers, and that we're not going to seek out credit. We just want the best for everyone. And, well, sometimes we want our name on the plaque. Right. Sometimes we want our name on the check.
Right.
Right. And we're no longer in a society where it behooves us to be that silent power and get silently rewarded because we get silently overlooked. Okay. So, one of the commenters asked if there are solutions. And one of the solutions that I feel that there might be, I don't know if this is something I could put in exactly tangible terms, is to make that person jealous. If they're going to take your power for granted and expect it to be soft power and not put your name on the plaque, not put your name on the check, find somebody who is going to at least put a little gold star on your forehead and, recognize your efforts. Because the truth is, if you're shining for the benefit of that organization, there's somebody else who's in direct competition with them. There's somebody else who, will do that acknowledgement, even if the place where you are won't do that. Right. So if you make them jealous, they start to talk to you differently. It's astonishing the change that you have, the change in demeanor when someone puts you in the position you belong in, and then they have to come to you a lot more deferentially than they once did. Okay. Because somebody recognized what the previous party should have recognized all along, and now has to deal with the difference in your status that you should have had all along.
But this is, and I know, Pam, you're next, but I want to say this, which is really, it makes me laugh inside. Little do you know that, and a little did I know that I was a leader before I realized I was a leader. Just when I think about it, even when my first year of teaching, and after I think like 8 or 9 years, I decided to go into, to really seek out getting my administrator's license. And one of the mentors that knew me my first year of teaching, she said, I knew the first year that you was a leader all along. And I'm like, well, she was like, even before you even realized you were, I knew that. And for someone to tell me that this late in the game that I'm not, that's like not just a slap in the face, it's laughable to me, because my whole life has been a leadership. Whether I put a leader, whether I labeled it a leader, my life has been leadership. So, I know who I am, but I'm just saying, for those that don't know who they are, that struggle in that area, how unfair is it, that you work many, many hours away from my children, my husband, just my life, and to be told that you're not what you've worked so hard to be, it's like a slap in the face because I'm a Black woman, So I just wanted to throw that in, just so you know, even before you know who you are, you've been that anyway. You're that. You don't have to be wait until somebody tell you what you are. You're that anyway. Your life, when you look at your life, you knew that you were a teacher, Brittany. I'm quite sure. I'm sure your teachers probably said something like, "Oh man, you're powerful." I mean, it doesn't take you going to college to recognize that, or someone hiring you in this leadership role for you to know who you are. So that's something that when you know who you are, that is not going to deter you from continue on your journey to be greater. So Pam, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that was powerful what you said.
That's it. Okay, guys. Last week we was talking about myth, and I talked about the one that I talked about was let's see. Black women fear their own power. No, Black women has bad. I don't know. What did we say, Pam? Because it was in and out. It was in and out. I know, Brittany, you mentioned the one that you didn't like is because it's the Black people are uneducated. You talked about that. I don't know if you want to add anything to it, because we definitely want to talk about some of this. How do we change the stereotypes? So I don't know if you guys want to touch on it. Then we go to that. But I definitely want to make sure that we are able to kind of really focus on how can we change it. So if AJ, if you can bring that slide, myths about Black women. So you guys can look at that. I'll say it for the 6th time. Black people, these are the myths surrounding around Black people, that we are always late, we're uneducated, we're lazy, we have bad credit, we're desperate for money. We have children, just not even. We just have lots of babies. We can't grow our hair. We must wear weave. Oh my gosh. Black people do not speak proper English. We are angry. We're always angry, and we intimidate people. And I think I spoke of the last one, that I've been told that I'm intimidating because I talk loud, or I'm 6 feet tall, just all kind of nonsense. So I just wanted to go over that. And then if you guys want to say anything about it, if so, great. Come on, let's do it.
I mean, I think some of those myths are a little easy to knock down just because we've had so many conversations about them, particularly that Black women don't speak proper English. We code switch. So there's definitely, we've had so many conversations about that back when we were calling that pattern of speech. And I'm sure the communication disorders and speech person, can talk about the differences in, speech and how that gets people received socially as being, back when in the 90s when it was called Ebonics.
Yes.
How it has eventually been considered more esteemed in the linguistic community as African American Vernacular English, AAVE. So we've already talked about, I feel like maybe Black people recognize that, but it's astonishing to me, really honestly, when I was in that school, when I was in my grade school, where, we would have like so much tie into our culture that when we would speak in that AAVE, style, and we wouldn't code switch, it was the concern from the teachers and the adult role models was that, oh no, you're going to be perceived as less than if you're saying things like my bad. Tell me why it's 20 years, 30 years later, and I hear old white people saying my bad as an apology.
Oh yeah.
So clearly I'm not going to be received in any different kind of way if this becomes the catchword, the hot terminology of the next generation, because of that same just cultural appropriation of language.
Okay, do you speak differently when you're around white people than you do around Black people, Pam?
Sometimes it just depends. Sometimes I am who I am, and if you want to judge me because I said I'm fixing to go over here, I just really don't care. It just really depends on my mood. I'm so fed up with having to be different all the time and always being made to feel like who I am or how I express myself is wrong. If I don't speak the standard, it's because of what you did. It's because of the fact that you brought me over here on that boat and you mixed up my tribes and you sent me over here and sent me over there with people who didn't speak my language, my native tongue. And then you yourselves do not speak standard English. I can tell you that right now. The average white person who supposedly speaks standard English, they do not. So they didn't speak it themselves. What we know, we learned from you, and we were, having a language barrier because we spoke a different tongue. Now we're trying to pick up this other thing, which really is not the standard anyway. So I'm a product of you. Really, truly.
Wow. Okay. Brittany's just looking. I'm like, okay, Brittany, do you feel that you changed the way? Do you speak differently when you're around your white friends versus your Black friends or family members? Do you speak differently?
So I feel that perhaps I don't fit the case that a lot of other people do, because I feel like because of my family's experience in this country, I had more relatives who came north earlier. And so, my grandparents may have been from the South, but they didn't speak in an overtly Southern pattern or AAVE pattern around me. So what I started up growing up speaking like was in that Midwestern accented, received pronunciation, however you call it, standard English dialect. So I've spoken like this all of my life. And when I text, I type in whole sentences. So I did not start off having to scrub the y'all and the finta out of my vocabulary. I had to drop it in to try to relate better to my Black peers. So I've had to kind of reverse course to try to code switch to accommodate being around Black peers, and increasingly a greater cosmopolitan society of all races who now speak more like how my Black peers have spoken for years.
Okay. So are you judged by either cultures, Black or white, saying that you sound white or you sound too Black? Or
I was absolutely growing up being told I talk like a white person. Absolutely.
Brittany, I love the way you speak, by the way.
Thanks.
Coming from a linguist, I love the way you speak. It's perfect. Nothing.
Yes.
Lacking nothing. You are perfect.
Not at all. I love it. Okay, so
one of the one more note about language, because on the side I was a language nerd. I did half a major in linguistics once upon a time. So to me, the phrasing of what's coming out, and some bilingual people might relate, is whatever seems to fit the situation best. Because there are some things from AAVE, there are some things from standard English, there are some things, even if you have experience speaking a whole actually other non-English language, that seem to fit the situation, that like you might not be able to say it in the same way if you don't say it in that part, in that phrasing where you're best versed. And you'd be surprised how many similarities there are between some disparate parts of the languages and the codes you switch between. So one thing that I learned studying Italian and other Romance languages is that they have a single word for a plural second person. So we don't have that term. We don't have words like that in standard English, but we do in AAVE. We have y'all. So, Italian, Spanish, French, they have a better translation to y'all than standard English to those other non-English languages. So it's fascinating the connections that you can make when it's just all in your brain already and you're empowered to switch, which is why one of the things that I think could be a great learning possibility, a great opportunity for Black students would be to explore other languages, because we could really start to respect a little better what AAVE's value is in our code switching if we understood how it feels to literally speak another language and to have some similar experiences.
Right. I agree. So what about the myths surrounding around Black women?
Which one in particular?
Let's see. We're irresponsible. No, Black women, we can't raise our children. Remember, we talked about that always. No, the next one, please. They don't discipline their children. Black women have multiple baby fathers. We talked about the father because you mentioned President Barack Obama's mom. That we're aggressive, we're uneducated, which Brittany talked about that. That we are not viewed as attractiveness as far as our body, our hair, our attitude. We can't raise our children, and we have bad attitudes, and we fear what Black women fear their own power.
the one that says we can't raise our own children, that one just really, that would really get under my skin
You know,
because
we raise our children, and they look at it now when we. No,
because we raise our children. I mean, that's part of our culture.
Right.
I have some friends who their grandmother raised them.
Right.
We had that whole mindset of, like the African proverb said, it takes a village to raise a child. I can remember growing up, and if I acted out, or if the neighbor down the street saw me doing something I had no business doing, they had the right to discipline me. And then when they told my parents, my father in particular, I got disciplined again when I got home. So we that's definitely a myth. Black people do know how to raise our children. It's just we may not raise them with the same because value systems are different depending on communities, just within families. Family values and family structures may be different. In my home, I might be okay with timeouts. I may not like physical forms of discipline, but in
Right.
another home, that family may believe in physical forms of discipline. That may be okay for them, but it may not be okay for the other one. I can recall, I remember my sister coming to visit, and my daughter had her books out and she was studying, but it was like a family celebration. But my daughter still had her books out. She was studying. And my sister said to her, why are you not having fun? Why are you not enjoying yourself? Put the book down, something to that effect. And she said, no, I have to study, and basically said, hey, in this house, we can't bring C's into the house. And my sister was like, oh, that's crazy. Maybe that's the best she could do. And I said, this is the way I run my house. This is the way I choose to raise my children. You raise your children differently. I'm not judging you for that. It's just, if I believe I had average, I would accept average. But I don't believe I'm raising average people. So if I expect average when I'm not raising average, then how am I raising my children to the standards or the value system that I hold so dearly? I do not believe that she's average. And so I have to bring her up. Mediocrity does not inspire men to greatness. The world is full of average. Why do I want to put another average person in the world? You know what I mean? Why do I want to do that? If I thought she was average, that's okay. That's who she is. I accept her, and I can meet her where she is and work real diligently to help her move beyond that if she's capable. But if I know based on what I've seen, and that's something that's in my family structure, we don't do C's, then that's my home. That's how I raise my child. It may not fall in line with your family structure or your value system, but education is very, very much important to me.
Nice.
And
I agree. I mean, I totally agree with that because I mean, I've been told, oh, your kids are spoiled. You don't. Well, hold up now. Hold up. Because like, what first of all, your child and you know what it takes. You can't raise all of them the same. We know that even though we have children, they're all different personalities. I know what I expect from one that can probably do it, the other one may not. So you just know your children, and to be judged or to be saying that you're doing it wrong, it's really disrespectful. And
yes, and it's so funny because I think in elementary school, it was really driven by me. But I heard her tell someone that past elementary school, when she got into, middle school and beyond, she wasn't doing that for me and because it was a rule in the house. It's just because that foundation was set. She said she wanted that for herself. She said she didn't want to make a C. She wanted to do better for herself. It really didn't have anything to do with me at that point. It was more about what she wanted and where she wanted to go, that she, wanted to strive for better. So that was,
and that's the same thing with the way that as my son that just graduated was younger, I had to constantly get him in line. Like, you got to do your homework. But once he went over to a school that called their students scholars, all of that went away because he started seeing himself as a scholar. And then he wanted it for himself. And from that point on, I never had a problem with encouraging him. Hey, you got to get this work done. What's going on? Because when he starts to see himself differently, it's what you call kids, is what they're answering to. If you say, oh, they're just C students, she's going to believe that. But if you say, oh, no, you're a scholar, you're standing on the backs of giants, they start to believe that, and they're going to respond to that, what you're saying to them. And speaking of Mr. AJ, he said, I've had to go switch to code switch because I had Black people say I speak like white people. I think we were behind with that. And he said, sometimes when you try to hang with Black people, they say you're not Black enough. And white people say you're not Black. So no, you're Black. You're too Black. So where do you fit in? I'm sorry, I just happened to read this. And he said, so where do you fit in when Black people say you're not Black enough and white people say you're Black? Where do you fit in? And I've watched you go through that.
My sons went through the same thing, and I used to tell them, you don't fit into their world. You don't try. Make them fit in yours. If it's any fitting that's going to be done, you fit in me. I'm not going to fit in you. I'm not going to reduce, suppress, or compromise who I am to fit into your group.
Amazing. That's awesome. I love it. Brittany, I don't know. Did you want to insert anything on that?
Really just that you never know who, appreciates your differences. So in the grade school where I experienced that, I didn't know how to code switch to speak more in an AV style. And I spoke, just the way that I couldn't help but speak. I would tend to get more, more distance and really just like ill treatment from, certain Black people who didn't appreciate that. But there were also some people I'd find out later, they had crushes on me, or they, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother them how I spoke at all. And so you can always find people who, even if they can't relate to your difference in how you speak, they can get with the level that you're on. As long as you're trying to, improve yourself, climb the ladder, be better for your own self, there will always be people who are down with that. They may be in a different age group. They may have different color skin than you, but you can find people who will be that in group because they find something other than your speech where you belong, and you don't have to try to meet them at this limited level.
All right. Okay.
So I ended up befriending people who were kind of on the outside, and I didn't mind it. It helped me learn more about different people who don't expect everyone to be the same as them. And so when I started to appreciate differences and people who appreciate differences, then I could ingrain a little bit better into sciences where you might be on the outskirts because of a question that you asked. Mm-hmm. And the people who are okay with new questions, interesting questions, have their own questions. And so it does better for you than the people who are like, this is all there is. I fit in this box. Everyone has to be just in my box or they're out. What does that benefit you to try to fit in with them anyway?
Right. You'll never fit in. You'll never fit in. So we're going to talk about how do we change the stereotypes? Can we go to that slide? How do we change the stereotypes? Change the narrative. Oh my gosh. Okay. Change the narrative. Stop being silent when experiencing mistreatment. Change starts with you. Change how you feel about yourself. Cognitive retraining. I would like to know more about that, Pamela. That sounds like something you said. Tapping into our power source. Maintaining an attitude of excellence and speak out against it. I love that. Okay, I don't know which one of you ladies want to attack one of these.
You put me in my. I'm gonna code switch here.
Okay,
you put me on blast, Colette. Why you gotta put me on blast? Huh? Why you gotta put me on blast?
Anybody know me? No, I didn't say that. Cognitive retraining? I want to know what is that? Cognitive retraining.
I mean, that's the same as training your thought process to think a different way about yourself in a positive way, like saying positive things about yourself, like taking a negative thought, I'm not worth anything, I'm unworthy, and you replace it with something positive by saying, oh, I am worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy to be in leadership, you know. I'm worthy to be a parent, to be a mother, just whatever negative stuff you have going on in your cognition, because if you live long enough, you're gonna get some baggage. You're gonna carry some baggage in your thought process. So just taking out the negative will be there, but you start retraining your cognition and retraining your thought process to not focus so much on that negative. And allowing those positive things and those positive affirmations and the positive thought process, you train your brain to think about the positive and focus on the positive more so than focusing on the negative.
You're unlearning what you've learned. Is that what you're saying?
I think that those things are always there. Like for me, just all of the trauma and the things that I experienced growing up in my childhood, that's in me and it comes up. There's not a day that goes by that some of that trauma doesn't come up. But when it comes up, immediately I snatch it because it's there and I throw something at it. You know, if it comes up, because I mean, I'm being transparent. I grew up and there was a lot of abuse. There was physical abuse, there was sexual abuse, there was emotional abuse. And so that trauma comes up. And when that trauma comes up, one of the things that comes up is that you're not valued, you know, you're discarded. You know what I mean? So when that comes up, I have to tell myself, oh, you are valuable. You know, you are worthy.
Right.
You're more than what happened to you, you know? And I remember, I'll never ever forget this. I was in therapy and I was, you know, reliving some of the trauma, and I was in having a moment, and all the therapist did was just reach over and just touch my leg right as I was reliving the moment. And he said, I admire your survival. I never ever thought of myself as a survivor.
Oh my gosh.
But when he said that to me, you survived all of that. He said, do you know that most people that experience as much trauma, and it was like you had throughout your whole childhood was just wrecked with trauma. That's what you experienced from a very early age up through your teenage. You experienced trauma. Do you know most people don't survive that? In the way that you've survived it. You know, you've gone on, you became educated, you got degrees, you became a mother. He said some people who experience sexual abuse, they become promiscuous and they have a lot of partners and children and things like that. But he said you didn't do any of that. And so those were one of the things that's one of the things that I will replace when I'm feeling that way. If that thought comes up to me, I say, oh no, I survived all that. I'm a survivor of that, you know, so.
Yeah, I definitely, when you started saying like, well, when I went to therapy, like that right there, because I think one of the biggest spirit killers, like if cancer is the number one killer of Americans, then, you know, the number one killer of, you know, Black women is low self-esteem.
Yes.
And it's so insidious. I should put it more on par with like obesity. People will say, oh, because of obesity, this person has, you know, it died. Clearly being obese doesn't die. It's all of this it's just the manifestation, and it just acts on different physical systems. And the same with Black women, low self-esteem. It's its own symptomatic thing, and it just acts in all of our spiritual, emotional, our physical experiences, and it drags everything down. It's in medicine, they would call it all-cause mortality. It increases all-cause mortality for Black women to have low self-esteem just baked in.
Yes.
So that's the way that I find it just insidiously just corrosive to Black women.
I 100% agree with you. That is so true, to look at it. And that's the overarching, oh, she has low self-esteem, but where did it come from? How did she get to that
few
point?
of us are even owning that, because, you know, besides trying to deal with the stereotype of, you know, how we speak, we also try to deal with the stereotype of being these proud, loud people. I was astonished, and I shouldn't have even let that stereotype about Black people into my life, but I was astonished to meet my first quiet Black woman, who was just by nature was just a quiet, soft-spoken person and didn't argue. I was like, you exist, don't you? And then I'm like, yeah, well, if quiet Black women exist, just quiet by nature, then women who are not, I'm a proud Black woman and I'm women who would say the exact opposite exist. And, you know, the nature of just being human and having face needs is that we don't say that, we don't wear that on our sleeves.
Yeah.
That we have those parts of us that are corroded with low self-esteem. And some of the time our low self-esteem will take the form that you don't think to even call it low self-esteem. You would think to call it more like a chip on her shoulder or something idiomatic.
She's an angry Black woman. That's one of those stereotypes. She's angry. Something brought her to that point. Everything stems, that's my belief, everything stems from somewhere. It comes from something, some experience, some person, some thought. Everything has a root. Everything has a root. And the root makes branches.
Absolutely. So just like that, you know, example of obesity being this leading killer or whatever, top 5 killers for the past, you know, 10 years, 15 years of, you know, people get screened for obesity. There's some kind of tool that a doctor, a physical doctor, will use to screen you for the kind of obesity that will lead to problems down the road. And the doctor will talk to you about making the independent steps to deal with that medical problem. Psychologically, could we as Black women go to head doctors, go to psychological doctors, get screened early in life, in college, or if we don't go to college, in teen years, for toxic low self-esteem, and have a discussion with a medical professional about how down the line those toxic elements, you know, that medical dysfunction of low self-esteem will down the line have effect where, you know, it's incumbent upon that young Black woman to take the steps to cut off that disease, that level of unhealth.
That's a mouthful, because I think Black people, hi, welcome back. I think that as a culture, that's not something that we seek out. I mean, that's something that's especially Black men. That is something that's a no-no. That's like the bond counseling. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, we're so big in the church. When you go and you listen to your pastor every Sunday, or you go to Bible study, I mean, that is a form of counseling. So you will go to church, but you won't go to therapy. You won't go to counseling. It's basically the same thing, a little bit more in depth and more personalized. But I find that fascinating that you'll go to the doctor if your toe hurts, but if your heart hurts, you won't seek out help.
Wow.
If your heart is sick, if your heart hurts, don't you know that's going to defile and corrupt everything else? Is going to affect so many other things, so many other systems. So I'm all for therapy. Colette knows I'm an advocate of therapy. And then when you need help, you need help. And that doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you less of a Christian for the people who are, in the Christian faith, because I'll be honest with you. That's what you get in some of the traditional, some of those really traditional and antiquated church.
Yeah, definitely an antiquated yet ubiquitous kind of thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just, I think that, I think it's important to go to therapy. So that was the whole cognitive retraining.
I appreciate you guys, you ladies holding it down.
We carried it on.
I had to just do a whole change and everything. I don't know. This went out. I love that. Just retraining the way. And I love the fact that you're saying you replace it. Anytime you get rid of something, you have to replace it with something. And so I just love the fact that anything negative is replaced with positive. And I just think just learning that at a young age, I wish I've learned that and not always take what people say negatively about me and really allow that to attach to me. If I just had those tools and skills to know how to say, well, they said this about me, but this is what I really am. I wish that I would have been able to learn at a much earlier age. I think I would not have suffered a lot of just feeling rejected and just by myself. And it's just a lot. So when you also said, Pam, when you said that there are certain things that trigger you, like if you're in therapy and you're just reliving that moment and you're feeling those emotions and just having someone there to remind you of how great you are to go through that. And I felt a lot of that when I was told I wasn't good enough, and it's like, you're good enough. But when you hear someone say that, it kind of takes you back to that, that trauma that you experience, that one experience. So yeah, even as adults, we still deal with that. So yeah, I love that. Brittany, anything that you guys now? What are some of the other stereotypes, and how can we change it? What about stop being silent when experiencing mistreatment? Like any of those, how do we change that? Those stereotypes. What other stereotypes can we change?
I think I gave a good example of that in the beginning, just not being silent and not accepting it. I mean, when she wanted to give me that evaluation that I didn't agree with, even though I was very young and I'm looking at her she's over me,
Wow.
I could have just given in to what she said and just signed a paper, but that's how I spoke up. I said, I'm not signing that because I don't agree with what you said. And I didn't care. I wasn't afraid of what was going to happen to me. I just knew I wasn't going to sign it. And then I didn't stop there. I went to the chair of the department and I explained to her everything that had taken place. Mm-hmm. And she said, why didn't you say something earlier? And I said, well, I didn't know I could. I mean, I didn't know I could come to the supervisor to report the supervisor. You put me there. So I didn't know that I could come there and report her to you. I didn't know that I had the right to do that. And she said, well, she violated the contractual agreement that we had with her. I mean, having you stay there longer than you should have stayed there. At the time I was still in the military, and she was telling me if hey, I got called up to go serve, I have to go. And she was saying, well, you need more time here. And if you leave now, it's going to affect your grades. So all of those things I brought out, and I think she had given me maybe a C or a D in the course. Mm-hmm. But when the dean of the department, when she saw it and I explained my side of the story, she bumped my grade up to a B.
Wow.
And they didn't use that site anymore as a practicum site. They didn't use that anymore. So that's an example of just speaking up against it, and not, I did know that I was doing the right thing. I just know what she was doing to me was not right. And I knew that I was not going to just sit there and let her do that to me. So I just think even when you're afraid, speak up anyway. And even though you think nothing may come of it, speak out anyway. Stand up for yourself anyway.
All right. Brittany, is there what are your thoughts on any of the other ways we can change stereotypes?
Well, one thing that that I guess came up for me when we were talking in an isolated circumstance about therapy was about the tendency of therapy to encourage empathy and even self-empathy, self-compassion. So I think that sometimes the most, compassionate people will also have that low self-esteem component. So one thing that therapy might train you to do that you may do on your own or not, based on just how your resilience works, is to turn that on yourself, to look at a situation from the outside and say, you know what, this person treated me this way. How would I feel if I looked at someone treating that person that way?
Right.
I'd be more likely to speak up and to advise that this person defend themselves or say something. So if you are able to say, compassionately, say, I wouldn't want this person to be viewed this way, then you start to think, I shouldn't be viewed this way.
Right.
And I shouldn't let people view me this way. So I think that having experiences where, we can tether to compassion, which most healthy people, psychologically healthy people have, might help us to link it to ourselves, turn it inward in a healthier way than some of the negative stuff gets turned inward.
Now, what about changing the narrative? I always believe I'm a strong believer in changing the narrative. Regardless of what you may say about me, I'm changing the narrative. I like getting ahead of the story. I see you coming. So what are your thoughts about changing the narrative? This is what they say. And I know, Pamela, you've mentioned something about time. I
know they always, that's a stereotype. Black people never show up on time. Black people never show up on time.
Right.
And because I know that, I was telling Colette that I know that's a stereotype. I'm just not a late person anyway. Colette will tell you that. I'm usually running a little bit. I mean, if something starts at 5, I'll be there probably at 4:45. I just tend to run a little bit early. And so I said that one of the things that I do with that one, I know that that's a stereotype about Black people in general, whether you're a female or a male. We're always late. I'll show up as early as 30 to 45 minutes early. Not because I have anything to do, just to dispel that myth. I will come in early. I'll be the first one to sign that book. If I'm not the first, I'm the second. I'm going to show up late. I'm going to show up early.
Early, okay.
Early.
Now that's definitely changing the narrative.
I'm showing up early. Even if it pains me to, I'm still going to do it because I know that that's a stereotype. I know that that's a myth. I know that. And I like to dispel myths.
Okay.
And then what I notice is that when you do it, and you are talking about it, because I talk about it and I'm not talking about it in a way to show off. People know my heart. I wear it on my sleeve. What you see is what you get. And I start talking to other people who look like me about it. And they start doing it. They will do it too. They will catch on.
I'm picking up on that too.
They will catch on to it too. So that's how you dispel the myth. Like, it's not just me over here saying, well, I'm coming to work on time. No, go get your brother or go get your sister and say, hey, look, let's do this. And it might take, for that first week, maybe you need to call that person and say, hey, I bet you I'll beat you there. The first one that gets to work, the second person has to buy the donuts or has to make the coffee or just whatever. Start some type of incentive around it to motivate.
Right.
I bet you I'm going to get that part. The first person, you're going to get that best parking space up front. And you know how we're lugging all of our equipment and stuff in. Don't you want that first parking space? So we're all racing to get that first parking space. Just whatever. Create some type of incentive around it so you are dispelling myths.
Right. Okay. Brittany?
Oh, I'm a terrible example as far as being places on time. I am the person who was like, at one point in my life, I was just like, this is just me. I own it. But something, Pam, that triggered me about what you said is, if you call me up and you tell me that if I'm late, I have to come out some money. Now, I may not be early, but I am cheap. So I don't feel like paying a penalty because I want to own being late. No.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Just give me a reason to want to change. Like, challenge me, you know, stepping out of your comfort zone, doing something that you don't normally do. Just because I don't want you to have anything to say. And I'm like that. I try to dot my I's and cross my T's because I don't want you to say anything. Like, you can't ever say that I didn't have something on time, or I don't want to give you any reason to say, look, see, yep, Black people don't even do their work. They all, nope, change the narrative. I love that.
I said that. And it's also good to do that because let's say you are going up for that position. That's one thing that can hold over your head. Well, you want to be in leadership, but you're late all the time.
Right.
Well, you're looking for this promotion. You never, ever turn in your paperwork on time.
Right.
And when you do turn it in, it's full of errors. It's not even completed correctly. Oh, your reports are horrible. Do you proofread? That's not excellence.
No, and that's which takes us to maintaining an attitude of excellence. That's how you change it. That's how you change it.
It's a habit.
But you know what, Pam? That's the reason it starts with children. When you tell them that they're scholars, that you're smart, it'll grow up in them, and that's all they know. But if you don't teach them, and they don't know that they're scholars, they're gonna do what you see grown people doing.
I was telling Colette, Brett, I used to teach first grade at Marva Collins Preparatory School, and it was in Wisconsin. And this is a quote. She's really big. Part of her curriculum is using quotes and all of those things to just really build up the children's self-esteem. And one quote that I just loved, and I used to use it all the time. I used to tell my students, excellence is not an act, it's a habit. Everything we do in excellence. And I said, for example, when they would line up to get ready to go to the cafeteria, I would say, now remember, bright boys and girls, everything we do in excellence, even the way we line up to get ready to go to the cafeteria. And they were snapping that line like that. And then as we're walking out in the hallway, I'll say, remember, bright boys and girls, everything we do in excellence, even the way we walk down the stairs to go to lunch. I said, excellence is not going to talk in the hallway. Excellence is not going to scream in the hallway. Excellence is not going to cut lines. Excellence is not going to push. I would just constantly saying stuff. I'm talking to them the whole time. Then when we would get in there and get our food, and I would sit at the table, and even though I could go, that's my planning period, I would sit at the table with my students and I would say, remember, bright boys and girls, now everything we do, remember I told you we do it in excellence. I said, excellence will not talk with food in its mouth. It just will not do that. And I never said, close your mouth, don't talk with food in your mouth. I just said, excellence, don't talk with food in their mouth. Right. And I did that maybe for like 2 weeks where I just would have to say it over and over again. Before long, I didn't have to say anything to those students. These were first graders. People would walk, wait a minute, what grade are they? What grade are they in? They could not believe. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone knew my class, even if it was so good. They were their mind was so changed and reshaped by the things that I said to them, the positivity that they got from me. They could literally walk downstairs and eat and do all of that, and they didn't need me sitting there with them. They did it because they wanted to be excellent.
Right. Okay. I love that. And maintain an attitude of excellence, and I'm sure if you ran into those students now, they probably are living pretty excellent. I mean, really just that grew up in them.
I believe it.
I really believe that because I'm telling you, even though it's not Marva Collins anymore, it's college prep. That's where my kids went, and I can just tell just with my children. I mean, it really helped them out a lot. It shaped them. It just got it kind of changed their mind as far as education. Like they just believe that they can do it, and they just did it. So I mean, I love that. I just believe that in any way that you can build a child up, the best way is telling them that they're great, telling them that you can do it. You're smart. Oh my God, you did that. Really, everybody wants to be affirmed, right? I want to know how wonderful I am, and that makes me want to be even more wonderful. So just imagine how children are. So,
Yes.
I mean,
I have a son. He can be a little spitfire. And every day when he would get out of the car when he's younger, and even now, and he's like, Mom, you're embarrassing me. I used to say, remember, life is about the choices you make. You get to decide whether they're good choice, whether it's good or bad. To every choice, there's a consequence.
Right.
You're going to decide whether it's a good one or a bad one. It's up to you. I said, make good choices.
Right.
Make good choices.
Okay. All right. So I mean, Brittany, did you want to add anything? Because we're at the end of yet another show. I think we made it. Well, we almost made it through. This time it was on me, but hey, you guys held it down. You guys held it down. I love it. I love it. So regardless of the fact that we're disrespected, we're the most disrespected, we're the most disregarded, and all the other negative things, we're still strong women, and we're still standing. And as long as we know who we are, we can change a nation. Honestly, I believe that. I believe we have the power to change things, and that's the reason why they feel intimidated by us, because they know once we recognize who we are and we start to move in that, things change. I don't know. That's my closing remarks. You guys can give yours. That's
I agree
on the table.
I said I agree with you. I mean, Michelle Obama just comes to light for me. She was just such a powerful and excellent example of a first lady and just a human being. And, you know, if my daughter chooses to emulate her, I wouldn't be jealous at all, because, you know, she just exudes grace and dignity and just intelligence. And I can just keep running down that list. And in her famous words, hey, when they go low, we go high. I mean, I don't think that there's anything else left to say other than when they go low, we go high. And that's how we change the narrative. That's how we dispel the myths. That's how, you know, we make things better for ourselves, is that life is going to throw you low balls, but you keep aiming high.
All right. Thank you, Pam. Britt.
So I also read Becoming. Yeah. Okay. Like I see. But yeah, I think when I think of kind of tying the topic in one bow, I think of resilience, because really, honestly, even if the worst was true, even if there were a lot of Black women who were loud, who were not raising their children right, who were unintelligent, who were uneducated, there's a lot that we could change by being resilient, you know. And especially with how long that I've worked in, you know, a community college or have lived in Chicago, I can attest to the people who I see change their lives when they get the opportunity to act on that resilience that has been working in them all this time. Because, I mean, even if the worst was true, the person's probably not proud of being the way they are. And, you know, one of the things that I love about, you know, Black women, when we do kind of own that, even if it's a bit of a stereotypical role, when we do take on the role of crown straighteners, when we're just like, no, here's where your crown is. Here is where you belong.
Love it.
Do this with your chin.
Come on, girl.
Do this with your backbone.
Come on.
When we do that with each other, when we feed each other so well, imagine that stereotypical person and how far they can come. If they'll have the reserve to just have that ammunition to fuel the path that their resilience is going in. To say, you know, I may not have come from these best of circumstances. I may have come from generational curses. I may have come from redlining. I may have, been the product of these housing and this trauma and all of this, inflicted by the government. But where can I go?
Right.
And, being inspired, within our own community can be so powerful. So
Right.
Having the resilience, Black women have had less and been resilient, and that's why we've gotten the advancements we have. And so I think of Black women as being the ones who we've been resilient before, we can be resilient again. And as long as we're part of that resilience, as part of that bettering ourselves and knowing which way is forward, because we've defeated that low self-esteem and we've defeated the stereotypes in our own minds, that's climbing, that's working towards better, and that's resilience.
Yes.
Wow.
Michelle Obama is up here. Brittany, you're right there.
Ah,
My book. You're right there, Brittany.
we all
You
are
inspire
becoming-
me.
all
You
are
inspire
becoming.
me. Yes.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Pam. You said
I said
something.
Brittany inspires me. I mean, she's that generation of young Black woman who believes so strongly in going back and pulling her sister forward, or going back and pulling her brother forward. And it's just so refreshing to see that, Britt, because a lot of your generation, I hate to say it, but they're just so driven and focused on the climb. And you're like, I can still climb, but I can still reach. I got one hand on the climb, but I got my other hand reaching back to pull you up to the climb with me. And I just want to tell you, I love you, my sister, and I'm very encouraged by you.
Yes. Oh my God, this is awesome. I love this. This is
Yeah, me too.
absolutely. I'm feeling some kind of way. it's so nice when we all can work together and build
Yes.
each other up, and just let each other know that it's okay. You know what I mean? So I think this is awesome. We have definitely over time, but it was worth it. It was worth it. So just remember, guys, like and share our page. We so appreciate your time here. And you all can also come back and watch the other shows prior to this one. And I enjoyed the show. And thank you ladies once again. Can you bring that? Once again, thank you so much for coming. I know that it's been a journey. I know that it has been. I just want you to know that I appreciate you all, and just know this is not your last time. We will revisit another topic, but thank you so much for coming, and God bless you guys. Okay.
God bless you too. Thanks for having us back on.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Now, we would like to thank special thanks to all of our viewers, our followers, our supporters, Restoring the Brokenness. Our special thanks to our technician on today, Alfred Jr. Please remember to like and share our page. Also, you can email us at restoringthebrokenness@gmail.com. And remember, be whole, be healed, and be at peace. Until next time, take care. Bye.